Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise in support of this bill. In Singapore, there's been a reported increase in the proportion of cybercrimes to overall crimes from 79% in 2014 to 14% in 2016. Cases reported under the CMCA, the Computer Misuse and Cybersecurity Act, more than doubled from 280 in 2015 to almost 700 in 2016. With ransomware, hacking, and the compromise of online accounts such as Facebook, SingPass, internet banking accounts figuring most prominently amongst these. In 2016, the National Cybersecurity Command, or NCSC, saw cyber attacks of varying impacts across many sectors, including the defense, government, banking and finance, and healthcare sectors. I therefore welcome this bill, Mr. Speaker. The Omnibus Cybersecurity Bill allows the Minister to appoint a Commissioner for Cybersecurity. The Commissioner is in turn empowered to designate a CII. There have been tweaks, Mr. Speaker, since an early draft of this bill was first released in July last year for consultation. Conducted between the 10th of July 2017 and the 24th of August 2017, the public consultation exercise garnered close to 100 submissions from a diverse range of stakeholders. I must disclose at this point that I was, together with other scholars and students at SMU, one of the respondents for this consultation exercise. I am therefore pleased, Mr. Speaker, with what has followed, with the refinements that have been made to this draft bill and now the bill before us. In particular, I think I am pleased in relation to the regime that now governs cybersecurity licensees. Beyond this, Clause 19.6 also suggests and clarifies that a person is no longer obliged to produce to the incident response officer an email infected by a malicious program or malware if that email contains information that is subject to legal professional privilege. A distinction is made between a non-disclosure agreement, which would be a contractual document of privilege, but there is a distinction now being made with legal professional privilege. Importantly, Mr. Speaker, the bill acknowledges that a compliance-driven approach to cybersecurity should not only be focused on a box-ticking exercise of getting all the boxes ticked, but one that solves cybersecurity problems creatively and proactively, thereby instilling a risk management culture. Behind laws, Mr. Speaker, it is this creative approach that will be our shield against cybersecurity threats and incidents. It is this risk management culture that will see CII owners taking swift and appropriate measures to prevent, manage, and respond to cybersecurity threats and incidents. In this vein, permit me to pose a few further questions to the Minister. Most importantly, or chief amongst, I would say, businesses that are involved in this sector, what perhaps is the Ministry and CSA's plan to minimize additional compliance costs, Mr. Speaker? I know that compliance costs for audits, reporting, and risk assessments can be exorbitant. And these costs are likely, and unfortunately, likely to be passed down to the consumers, not to the owners themselves. Data disclosed during a recent proposal to amend the Homeland Security Acquisition Regulation in the US have revealed that costs per company associated with implementing its cybersecurity rules went up to more than $150,000 US for independent assessments and equipment costs, ranging in turn for up to $350,000 to perform continuous monitoring for this purpose. If these processes are not properly managed in Singapore, considerable sums could be unproductively spent. In relation to Part 4 of the bill, which deals with responses to threats and incidents, can we have some examples of what might variously qualify as a cybersecurity threat or incident of a severe nature, on one hand, a cybersecurity threat on the other, and still on the third hand, which you don't have, an emergency level serious and imminent threat? There are terms of art, which I would say judges and lawyers will be very keenly looking at, and we have some guidance as to what this would be. Third, will cloud services be impacted by this new regulatory framework? The bill's explanatory statement admits that the Commissioner's wide-ranging powers of access to data in Clause 20 is intrusive. Will this be seen as going against perhaps established data privacy and protection principles and potentially expose the data of cloud service providers' clients? This is particularly so in a public cloud environment. Could the bill have a chilling effect on the adoption of cloud services in Singapore, as cloud customers in both Singapore and elsewhere become increasingly concerned about the level of government access to private data and perhaps may withdraw from cloud services in time to come, even though these cloud services arguably claim to provide better cybersecurity than what we have beyond cloud services? This could be a pity, as the cloud could enable new innovations such as AI, big data analytics, which will likely become the basis of future developments in technology, and that by all accounts, the Smart Nation and Digital Government Office wishes to support. I understand that codes of practice and standards of performance will provide more guidance as to relevant businesses on the actions that they must take to comply with the bill. Are there plans, Mr. Speaker, to adopt the best practices, specifically from the US and UK, in this regard? I note that the US has a Cybersecurity Disclosure Act of 2015, which adopts a comply or explain procedure in certain circumstances. Will we be following that route or studying it at least? Or the UK Cybersecurity Information Sharing Partnership, a structure for incident disclosure and collection, which amongst other things allows business organizations to work in collaboration with the regulators to collaboratively and voluntarily report incidences to the UK's National Computer Emergency Response Team. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, the breadth of machines and systems that are or could become potential CIIs is staggering and will only expand in a smart city such as Singapore in time to come. I fear when I read that the Ministry of Defense has quite rightly looked at how even fitness trackers could become a portal for a CII threat or incident. Allow me to end by noting that the Economist Intelligence Unit's most recent report, notes that cyber criminals are seeking out points of least resistance in the Asia-Pacific region. Jurisdictions without cybercrime legislation, so hopefully now we're going to have cybercrime legislation in addition to the CMCA, but jurisdictions perhaps in our neighboring jurisdictions, without this legislation or with weak enforcement, are attracting cyber criminals as vantage points from which to conduct attacks into the networks of more advanced countries. So if I can end by just asking, Mr. Speaker, if the Minister could share anything that's going to be done regionally and perhaps internationally to prevent this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support the bill.